Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're talking to Jewish stand-up comedian and actor Moti Rosenfeld, who's promoting his new special, Know Your Audience, which is available on 800 Pound Gorilla. Moti, can you hear me?
I hear you. I love the way that the first part of the adjectives was Jewish.
It's interesting. I've watched a couple of your sets because I also do, I'm an attorney, but I'm a professional stand-up. I also write comic books and I do this show. And I love how you are able to, when I mention anything Jewish, I slip it in, I make a joke about it and haul ass real quick because, my audience can be tough sometimes on me with stuff like that. I noticed that, you go full force into it. You don't even think about it. It's who you are. I mean, how much of your set when you do it, do you go, okay, I'm going to talk about my family. I'm going to talk about Israel.
Well, again, keep in mind the show is called Know Your Audience, so you have to know what's sitting in front of you. If I'm performing for an ultra-Orthodox community, it's going to be a different set than what I did in Orlando to Dr. Phillips, because that was just a whole bunch of people that are all religious, not religious, Jewish, not Jewish. There were everything in that room, and you have to be able to connect with everybody.
We do have a lot in common, forget the stand-up and everything else. But, when I was 17, I was part of the multinational force that sits between Egypt and Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I remember being haunted by, the issues that happened in Israel. And I was brought up in the U.S. as, I went to Hebrew school and everything else. But to actually be part of the defense of Israel and everything else like that just felt so, surreal. That's the best word I can use.
When the war began, we were in Israel. I was doing shows in Israel, and then that Saturday the war began, and we had a flight to Paris to do 4 shows, and we took off finally. 4-hour delay. We were on the runway. We were hearing the sirens, and then our plane finally took off. We landed in Paris. There wasn't a question of should we do shows or not do shows. We just went in and did it, and I feel like that's bringing some laughter to people who are enthralled in a war. People are on their phone all day long watching this war, and all of a sudden they get an hour and 20 minutes of laughter. And then after every show, I sing Hatikva. We sing the Israeli national anthem, which is called Hope. And sometimes that's the front line.
One thing a lot of people don't realize, and since I lived in the Middle East for 6 months, they don't understand that Israelis are built differently. I mean, when every hour something can happen, every second something can happen, you just live your life differently. You feel differently about the world around you. You're tougher. You take your moments when you can get them. How tough is it to describe to people when they go, oh, you don't understand, Israel should do this or they shouldn't do that. I mean, to be in a constant state of war at all times, whether it's official or not, is tough.
It's very tough. And, I've taken friends over there who aren't Jewish to show them Israel. And it changed their lives. I think it's so important that people who aren't Jewish see Israel as well. They see what a developed country this is. The real goal is peace. But you feel it. You really feel that it's like every moment you have that you're sitting in a cafe and there's no bomb going off. No siren going off. You have an appreciation for that.
It's such an amazing place. I remember I was there for Easter weekend, and I didn't know it was Easter. I was just a break off of the military. I was walking around. I didn't even know where I was, but I had my multinational force ID, so I kept flashing and flashing. And suddenly I'm standing in front of the Western Wall, and I had never been there before. And the minute I saw it, I said, my mother would kick my ass that I'm sitting here in the middle of the night wrapped in a purple blanket, staring at one of the most important places in the world. It just happens that way, I guess.
What an amazing story. Wow. To all of a sudden land in front of it. Yeah.
The answer between Egypt and Israel was simple. It was babysitters. There are 5 countries that sit in between Egypt and Israel and Saudi Arabia. And that seemed to solve that problem. Why do you think that hasn't happened, in Gaza?
It's really a different dynamic. Back then you had soldiers and armies. My father served in 3 wars in Israel. He was telling me on the 6-day war, he was in a platoon that was in the desert, and they had these special tanks that were half tank, half truck, and they were driving out, and they saw this Jordanian unit coming towards them, and they stopped, and they, with the binoculars, they looked at each other, and these are reservists, and they were reservists, and they have kids at home, and they have kids at home, and they have businesses back at home, and they have a business back at home. And my father, without even taking instructions from the captain, just turned left and kept driving. And they turned left and they kept driving, and they left each other alone. Now it's a different type of an animal. Now you're fighting barbarians. People, first of all, they take these drugs before they go out to kill. They're on like meth or whatever the hell they're on. They want to destroy and kill. And they, like I said, back then it was soldiers who were out there because of their government, not because they decided, I want to go kill Jews in the desert.
It's a tough experience. I mean, I was in a unit. I was sitting in the middle of Sharm el Sheikh, and I used to play chess with this Egyptian soldier. He used to walk like 7 miles to play chess with me. My mother had got me a mezuzah. For my listeners, that's basically the Ten Commandments around your neck. And I didn't pay attention. He reaches over. He realizes what it is. He looks me in the face. He packs up his chessboard and walks away. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time because I was only 17. I turned 18, believe it or not, in Egypt. And, it's impossible to get away from that. And I don't know if there's ever an answer. I don't know if it's going to take generations for people to not care anymore. But, I hope we can figure it out someday.
Through comedy, we can figure it out. Just laugh. Find a way to laugh. That's the only thing I can tell you. That's my job. That's my job.
Have you ever played in front of an audience like that? I mean, an Arab audience?
I played in front of audiences where I looked out and I see Arabs. I see the women with their heads covered. At the comedy clubs, at the Comedy Cellar, all those places, and I watch them laugh. And they're laughing at a guy who's Jewish and proud to be Jewish, and the jokes land, and they're like seeing a portal into the Jewish world through laughter and pride, and they all laugh. And it's probably nothing else has worked, but maybe laughter is what can bring peace.
I think you're right. One of my best friends is Arab, and I was his best man at his wedding, and I was the only Jew there. I remember doing the best man toast, and at first they were looking at me like, "What is this guy doing?" And then by the end of the night, everyone was like hysterical. That was so funny, and you're right. Hopefully laughter will allow us to open doors to want to spend time with our families and not want to spend time in hate.
Exactly. Well said.
You're doing this, you're doing these shows, you're touring the world, you go, now this is what I want to be. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. What's the next thing? Is it movies? Is it television? Or are you going, I'm staying in my lane?
We're still touring, still doing shows. That's just a set thing. And then there's television and film and those types of events. I have my podcast as well. It's called And Here's Modi, and available wherever podcasts are. So television and film coming up.
Now I noticed when I was looking for your show, it's on your website. It's on 800 Pound Gorilla. I mean, how tough is it to get comedy out now, or is it simple because it's free on YouTube? It's everywhere. I mean, but is that...
We have bits here and there on YouTube, on my Instagram, Modi_live, and it's I think it's easier now, and you can find, but you have to find a good comic that you can relate to, we've made it simple. We've made it just to go to the website, ModiLive.com, and you click on it, and you're watching it, and you're having a blast.
When you're putting out comedy, especially I've talked to a lot of comedians who during COVID realized that they had to be online. They didn't have a choice. They couldn't be out with people. During COVID, what was it like being a stand-up comedian for you?
It was amazing because it was crazy. We were doing live shows, Zoom shows, all over the world, but it actually opened me up to audiences that had never seen me, in England, Australia, Europe. Which was a gift. There was a gift in COVID, and it was hard because you're performing to there's no live audience. You're performing to a computer. But we found a way to do it. We found a way to set it up, and we were doing a lot of them, and it was very successful. It was you pivot. You have to learn how to pivot.
Well, congratulations on all the success. Why don't you give out all your information, because I would love for people to see you everywhere.
Yes, thank you again for having me on it. And the easiest one is my website, modilive.com, MODILIVE.com. The special is there. You can get to my Instagram, and you should watch. I always put clips up, funny stuff, and of my own, and it's just a great way to just in the middle of the day just to have a laugh and just catch your breath from what's going on in the world. ModiLive.com, and the special is called Know Your Audience, and the tour dates are on the website as well.
No problem at all, and I look forward to seeing you in the future, my friend.